Okay, sorry. Well, hello and welcome to day 11 of the 12 days of articles in review. It is January 5th. It's Friday. We're still in Boston. The snow has subsided and now it's just insanely cold and super windy. But today's articles in review are looking at the phenomenon of early life adversity. And I find this topic just absolutely fascinating and so informative, particularly given my area of expertise, right? Neonatal care and infant care. These articles, two of them are from 2016, one of them is from 2017. I'll give you all the citations. And the awesome news is they're all open access. So very, very cool. But the thing that I feel really will help clinicians shift in their mindset, shift in their knowledge base, which then underpins how they practice, is an understanding of the biological processes that underlie early life adversity. Now, as I mentioned a couple of reviews ago, right, I'm not saying that we as clinicians are trying to create adversity. The patients, by the very nature of requiring neonatal intensive care, are in an adverse situation. They are experiencing adversity secondary to their primary situation, their primary diagnosis, the fact that they're separated from parent and all that sort of thing. And so it's important for us and incumbent upon us to understand the implications of that experience at the biological level and actually the genomic level. This first article that I'm going to mention to you is from the journal called Human Genomics. How cool. Title of the paper, I'm just scrolling up to it for you guys, is Early Life Adversity and Long-Term Neurobehavioral Outcomes. Epigenome as a Bridge. And what these guys talk about is that the accumulating evidence is showing us that it's more than stress, that stress is certainly a bad thing, that adversity early in life is definitely associated with later neuropsychiatric, cognitive, and behavioral outcomes. Now, this is really important for us to understand, even though we may not appreciate any indications that our patients are increasingly at risk for neuropsychiatric disorders. We need to be informed about that, because everything we do can either mitigate or enforce that developmental trajectory as a result of this adversity. Let's see, the recent studies actually suggest, because everyone has stress and people say, hey, there are people in the PICU, there are people in the adult ICU, and we don't see these kinds of outcomes for them. Well, take a step back and realize that the people that we serve, and this is one of the wonderful things about being a neonatal clinician, is we are literally helping their brain develop. We are contributing to their brain development. This other paper that I want to share with you from 2016 is Early Adverse Experiences and the Developing Brain, from two scientists out of Boston Children's Hospital, so Joanna Bick and Charles Nelson. And what they look at is this idea of adversity, and they've kind of organized it into two different buckets, but are looking at very similar outcomes regardless. So they're looking at children exposed to childhood maltreatment in family environments, and in the other group, children who are exposed to extreme psychosocial deprivation in contexts of institutional rearing. Now, I know that might sound like a weird term, institutional rearing, but for our patient population, they are literally being reared in an institutional setting. It is aberrant and it is abnormal than what they are biologically programmed for and expecting as brand new human beings. Yes, it is necessary due to their medical and or surgical situation, but it is aberrant and it is a form of institutional rearing. And so when they looked at these outcomes, they recognized that there is definitely a link, obviously, to abnormal brain development as a result of the adversity endured because of this early life adversity. Now, all is not lost. What these authors here, Bick and Nelson from the the Boston Children's authors paper, they talk about, they review emerging data pointing to the effectiveness of early intervention in mediating these neurodevelopmental consequences. That's where we come in. I talk about this in when I get to do my presentations and stuff, about understanding the biological consequences of early life adversity then inform us for primary prevention and earlier intervention. So, in my default brain, I think of early intervention that happens after discharge and will plug you in. But actually, early intervention is primary prevention on admission. What are those things that we do to preserve and protect these developing brains? They go on to mention that in the concluding remarks of their paper, they talk about the implications of this for public health work, and they also offer some suggestions for directions in the field. And when you think about it, it may not feel like a public health situation in the NICU, but again, as these individuals, leave our care and move through their own life is altered. Their developmental trajectory is derailed as a result of their experience in the NICU, and we are part of that experience. We do have an opportunity to mitigate and minimize it just by virtue of their primary diagnosis that brings them to the NICU. We've offset the plan, the blueprint, if you will, but we can ameliorate some of those perturbations to development by promoting parental proximity, emotional relationships. Skin-to-skin care is like the simplest and the most quintessential intervention that you can offer these individuals that preserves their integrity and that promotes an optimal developmental trajectory for these individuals. And in this other paper that I also wanted to share with you guys, again, all of these things just kind of intersect and support each other. These authors, it's a 2016 paper. This is Chen and Baram. They're out from University of California in Irvine. They're, again, toward helping us understand how early life stress actually reprograms the cognitive and emotional brain networks. And so, again, this early life stress, which is experienced through separation, unmanaged pain, sleep fragmentation, sleep deprivation, basically the individual, and for our purposes, the infant, is in a constant state of hypervigilance, of fear and anxiety, of concerns about safety, because the environment is not making them feel safe. And I get it. It is wicked hard to identify that emotional state in the infant. And that's why it's just so important for us to put ourselves in their place, to empathize with their lived experience. And I, mentioned this in a previous review about the importance of mindfulness, the importance of self-care, that by filling up our cup, it allows us to be more present to the experience, more mindful. And those are the bits that really bring value and healing to this critical situation. The idea of the work of Brene Brown jumps into my head. And how important it is for us to be vulnerable with the patient, to honor their experience and recognize in a tangible, quantifiable way that these individuals are much more complicated than their disease. And taking care of their disease is the easy part. It's taking care of them as vulnerable, developing human beings who are literally being shaped with every touch, with every experience, with every choice that we make to manage their pain or not manage their pain, to support parental partnerships and promote kangaroo care or not because we're too busy. And I get it. I get we're busy. But the science now is so overwhelmingly profound and compelling that you can't read this, you can't hear me, you can't expose yourself to this and then just turn a blind eye. That's negligence. That's malpractice. It's not It's not the right thing to do as a caring human being, regardless of your discipline. And so I invite you. I mean, they're short reads. They're very comprehensive. Two of them are reviews, which makes them really awesome. You get a lot of information, big bang for your buck. The 2017 paper, again, has pictures and stuff like that, which I like because it helps me kind of connect the dots, you know. And, you know, I know when I was just speaking, I was focusing on the baby's experience. It's also important to make the connection with the family, because this paper that I started to focus on at the beginning about early life adversity and the neurobehavioral outcomes in human genomics, it also talks about that pre-existing, if you will, adversity and stress state of the fetus as a consequence of the maternal experience and her state of stress. And so that kind of, you know, opens up the door for us to really start understanding where the parents are coming from, because that is also part of the story of the baby and informs us in how we can truly be therapeutic for the infant, but for the family as well. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the hospitalization, this little individual is going home with this family, and having a baby, even if it's in the NICU, is still a defining moment. And it defines the family, and it defines us as well. And hopefully we will choose to be defined as compassionate, empathic, caring professionals who touch lives and impact lifetimes for infants, families, and for ourselves as well. So on that note, I'm going to sign out, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is January 6th. It's the 12th day. I'm really sorry that I haven't been able to take you around Boston. We're going down into the negative single-digit numbers, and I just don't have that much stamina to stand out in the cold. But I think I'm going to do these random little video articles in review over the year, and show you the sights and sounds of Boston and beyond, because I get to go to some really cool places, and it'd be wicked cool to take you along with me and share with you the cool stuff that I'm learning in that moment as well. So I know this is a long one. I'm going to let you go. Happy Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. Take care and care well, guys. Bye.